There is nothing I love to work on more than the design of a logo. I got into logo design more out of necessity than anything else. Originally, as a web developer during the very beginning of the era itself, most of my work would come from marketing agencies that would take care of the logo, probably provide a brand book, give us examples of some hard copy brochures they'd created, point of sale material. They would give us photography, content for the site itself, and literally look after me. They would give me everything I need, and I would create a website. I would give them visuals. If they liked the visuals, I would convert those visuals into something that's functional and put all the nuts and bolts underneath to make it work. It was quite simple back then. As times changed and websites became more mainstream and customers were coming to us directly, if we were lucky enough for them to have a logo at all, it was probably something they got free when they paid for the display advertising for the Yellow Pages. And back then, the Yellow Pages was even in black and white. So if the logo was not good enough, 9 times out of 10, I would have to recommend we either do some work on their existing logo, or if they don't have a logo at all, we'd need to create something from scratch. I wish I had told my prospects and my customers a lot more about what I was doing at the time. This was about 20 years ago. But for some reason, nobody likes to admit they're a novice until they have the confidence behind them of being a professional. Although I was very creative, had a good understanding of color and how to portray various images, etc., the main elements of design, I did not have a lot of experience in designing logos. And as a result of that, the research and the reconnaissance you have to do at the beginning would take me a little bit longer. Now, for logo design, this didn't matter too much for 2 reasons. Number one, I would offer a fixed fee, and the fact that it would take me longer to do the research was my problem. My customers don't pay for my learning curve. And number two, as far as I was concerned, this was a lost leader to just get the logo done so that I could move on and do my job, which was more to do with the website. So what I used to do when I have a new customer, Google wasn't so popular then, I would have to take a trip to the local library. Now, the library is a fantastic place to do this. It's very quiet, it's very calm, you have time to think, drink coffee, and look at as much information as you need. Now, my main resource at that time, believe it or not, was actually the phone book. It was the Yellow Pages. In the library in the UK, we would have 2 or 3 rows of phone books, one for every single region of the UK. There was well over 110 back then, and I would go through every single one for the specific category of my clients, and I would photocopy the pages of all the logos that I liked, the majority of which, if not all, were in black and white. I think a few years later they started making the background color white and they started adding color, but yes, at the beginning it was definitely all black and white. So what I would do, I would photocopy all of the ones I like, blow them up onto A4. I would go and see the customer, literally stick them all on the wall, and we would go through them one by one with a marker, marking all of the details that we liked, some of the elements that we could use, and get as much inspiration that we could to get the look and feel that the customer was looking for. One of the things I like about logo design is 9 times out of 10, it gives you the opportunity of working with the owner. After all, it's his baby and he knows what the look and feel should be. So by the time we finish the logo and the customer is happy, it basically means we've got a new customer for life. Unless it's a marketing agency, I can't remember the last time I had a customer who just had a logo and disappeared. You usually have them for as little as a few months, right the way up to a few years. The ones that I have long term that eventually disappear, it's usually because their company has become so successful, they now have the resources in-house to do the job and they don't need me anymore. Once I started traveling and working remotely, logo design became particularly important in my life. 10 years ago, the equipment that you would need to do the type of job I do was not as small as it is today. Back then, the equipment we would need to do my type of job, you couldn't get away with doing it on a laptop. I had 3 screens, a huge tower case, a lot of peripherals that I needed that I would literally have to get shipped out and flown to where I'm going to go in advance. And if I was working on something particularly lengthy like video editing, then maybe I could be stuck in an apartment for over 24 hours. With the logo design, however, one of the things I liked is the fact that when you're going out doing your reconnaissance, even going to the supermarket to buy some shopping, ends up inadvertently becoming reconnaissance when you start looking at the logo on the shelves. I like the fact that with a small A6 writing pad, you can literally sit anywhere and start doing sketches. The more sketches you do, the more you think. It's more of a process of elimination. By the more sketches you do, it's not just a case of finding out what works, because you already have a rough idea what you have to do. It's more of the process of elimination and getting rid of what doesn't work. And then what's left over is obviously the pinnacle of what you're trying to achieve. A website is only as good as the content that you put in it. And so, of course, the written content, the photography, the look and feel, etc., is all complemented by the logo. So if the logo is not right, nothing else is right. And once we get the logo right, it is the purpose of the brand book to make sure there is continuity across everything else. It is so important, in fact, that I don't design logos anymore without a brand book. I include a basic brand book in there because I know it's so important. And if the customer needs more, then obviously we can look at creating something a little bit more extensive. But to be honest, when I meet the clients and I learn more about the company, I will already know what they need. And as a result of that, I will make a recommendation near the very beginning. I like the fact that once you've designed a logo, it leads on to other things. The last company I was working for was a German firm, and they actually came to me for the brand book. And immediately after I created the brand book, I ended up having to do artwork for various billboards up and down the country. Once I have a written document that explains what the company is about, the look and feel, the type of company it is, where it expects to be in about 5 years' time, I can then get a rough idea of what I need to put together. And then I will create various sketches and visuals of what I believe they need. And then it's backwards and forwards interaction with the client as to whether I'm on the right track. Once the client is actually satisfied that we're on the right track and I need to then start moving forward, I will then start using programs such as Adobe Illustrator. I will then create more refined versions until the customer is happy. And then from there, I will use InDesign, which is the tool I use for creating the brand book. Once the brand book has been approved, then we have the scope to move on and start looking at the marketing. Well, I hope you found this video informative. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me. Thank you for listening.